Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk My Hero Academia, specifically a video talking about one of Izuku Midoriya's techniques, Full Cowl. The technique that he developed in conjunction with Gran Torino after he did his workplace experience. Now, Full Cowl is kind of interesting because it plays around, or its origin is tied to one of the concepts that My Hero Academia throws around pretty often. It makes it for a really interesting little technique to talk about. So let's get into it. So the first question to really ask when it comes to Full Cowl is like, how did it come about and why? Basically, Full Cowl was supposed to be a way for Izuku to use his quirk without destroying his body. A big part of developing this quirk was that Izuku had to kind of change his mindset. He had to change the way that he saw One for All. He was still seeing it as something that was special, and this vision kind of led to Izuku just his judgment getting clouded, and it all really stemmed from this. In the chapters or episodes leading up to Izuku's creation of this technique, he gets advice from Gran Torino. Specifically, one of the big things that Gran Torino told him was just One for All isn't all that special. From there, Izuku went on his own way, taking that phrase or taking that statement into account, and then he started thinking about the quirks in general. And the big thing was, a quirk is just another function of the body. That idea was very important. Izuku can remember that Bakugo and the rest use their quirks naturally, and there Izuku was able to see the distinction between him and Bakugo in that regard, in that he still thinks of using it. So for Izuku, it was essentially like flipping a switch. Whenever he wanted to use One for All, he would go and concentrate all his power into the fist and just use it for that one instantaneous moment, for the moment that he is landing that punch. Izuku eventually realized that what it meant was that he had to use it naturally. Essentially, he had to have the power be a natural part of life. It had to always be on, or at least that's his pretty much end goal. It has to be as natural as it is for All Might or Bakugo. It has to be as natural as breathing. Going along with that idea of making it natural, one of the solutions he came up with was naturally to just let it course throughout his whole body. And that was something that he came to, continuing the general microwave metaphor, when he realized the whole thing about the takoyaki and being able to properly distribute the heat across all parts of the takoyaki, in which case the metaphor was being able to distribute all of One for All throughout his whole body. So how does Full Cowl work? Well, Full Cowl offers Izuku access to about 5% of the strength enhancement from One for All, but at the beginning it still required a bit of focus from Izuku to kind of maintain the power when he first developed the technique. Once that focus is met, however, Izuku has the power of One for All maintained throughout his whole body, and we see that visually through the green sparks and the kind of red lighting that happens across Izuku's body. This is another distinction from what Izuku was doing before, since Full Cowl affects Izuku's whole body instead of just one limb. What this ultimately means is that all his physical attributes increase, including his punching ability and his jumping ability, ultimately allowing Izuku much more maneuverability and reliable damage potential. Izuku at this point is essentially All Might at 5%, and we were able to see the fruits of his efforts with Gran Torino and the Stain battle as he was moving around the areas and just being able to be a bit more dynamic in his assaults. The new maneuverability was definitely one of the most welcome additions to Izuku's abilities, since it allowed him to be more versatile overall and allowed him to continue doing things like copying Bakugo's general techniques and thus building up his own personal style. Ultimately, Full Cowl is effectively Izuku's answer to having his quirk always be on. Now, unfortunately, it's not fully at that idea because, as we see, Full Cowl is still something that Izuku turns on. It's just something that's much more maintainable, something that's much more manageable, and something that just lets Izuku kind of use it in a more natural way. And we have that indication whenever he uses his little sparks. As long as we have the sparks there, it's ultimately saying that this is still something he's turning on, but instead of it being an instantaneous moment, it's more of a continued moment for however long he wants to use it, which is a definite step up. Full Cowl will get stronger in the future, and we already are seeing that in the manga, with even Izuku being able to move it up from just 5% of his power. So in that way, Full Cowl is also the ultimate training device, since you can imagine that once Izuku is able to handle all of One for All, he most likely will not need to use Full Cowl anymore, since he will just be using it in the same way that All Might uses it. And that's actually a pretty good way to compare it. All Might is the ultimate goal for Full Cowl's development. And All Might, he's always using his power. He's always at 100% All Might. So this is the goal that Izuku is moving towards, and just now Full Cowl is the ultimate stopgap for Izuku as long as being the ultimate training tool. His body will get more used to using 5%, and then he'll be able to train it up as he goes along his path. Anyway, Full Cowl is an ability that has a lot of room for potential and a lot of room for growth, because hey, we're just at 5%. And like I said, in the manga it's already been developed a little bit. If you guys would enjoy a video about the next stage of Full Cowl and what exactly it's doing and what's so different about it, let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, also let me know. Leaving a like is a good way to do that. If you like these types of videos, consider subscribing. It helps out the channel. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for me. A very simple My Hero Academia explained video for one of these techniques within a quirk. Thanks for watching.